Alright, here's a review of capitalization for organizations and other subjects from Mr. Orth's Flipped Classroom for Grammar. Starting with capitalizing organizational names and abbreviations of those organizations. Just like almost every other title, you're not going to capitalize the or of as part of those names. Do want to remind you, of course, to make sure that you are using end marks, particular periods, to indicate abbreviations when you apply those. Even when we're typing things for right now, until the rules evolve even a little bit further, go ahead and continue using those periods to indicate abbreviations. An example there, the University of Minnesota, the and of would not be capitalized, but university in Minnesota would be. If I just said that I'm going to go to college or I'm going to go to university, which is more like what would be said in certain parts of the country, but not necessarily the Midwest, I wouldn't capitalize a C on college or university. If I talk about having attended Augsburg College, then I capitalize the A and the C for Augsburg and college. Historical events and items, including BC and AD, BCE, CE, AM, and PM. Example of historical items would be like the Declaration of Independence. Quick note, AM and PM. You don't capitalize them and you don't put periods in them. The AM is not AM anymore, it's not an abbreviation, it's AM. There are certain styles, for example, if you major in journalism, that are going to tell you to go ahead and put lowercase and no periods and not even a space after the number. For purposes of writing in a language arts class in the state of Minnesota at this time, go ahead and continue using capital letters and periods for those abbreviations. For some of you, you might think you're pretty clear on BC and AD. May I please point out that BC can be translated as before Christ. AD is not after death. AD is actually Latin for Anno Domini, which is actually the year of our Lord. If you think about it logically, if BC is before Christ and AD is after death for the same person, that means that person basically lived 1 year and that's it, as opposed to living about 33 to 34 years, depending on which books in history you use. For BCE and CE, this became fairly fashionable in the late 90s and early 2000s. Most books have kind of moved away from it already, but you still might find some textbooks or articles that use BCE and CE. It's before the Common Era, ERA era, and the Common Era. It was an attempt to do two things. One, for some people, they would consider it a reason to move away from using labels, which may be applied to only one particular religion. Others would say it's about being more accurate, seeing as how many scholars, for example, think that the year marked as 0 on the BC AD calendar actually is off by anywhere from 3 to 4, in some cases even are assumed to be 6 years off, that the person for whom that calendar is named was actually born in the year 3, 4, sometimes even 6 BC, and not in the year 0. So because of its inaccuracy, some folks consider that BCE and CE to be more appropriate. And for those who are just curious, AM is ante meridium and PM is post meridium, as in before and after the midpoint. Things you already know, you capitalize months and you know that. You capitalize days and you know that. Special events, okay, for the most part, if it's part of a proper noun, it sounds like it's a once in a lifetime or once a year event. Okay. Holidays, see lesson 1 talking about items from cultures, but not seasons. Just word winter itself wouldn't be capitalized. The St. Paul Winter Carnival, now that becomes a special event and therefore be capitalized. The Super Bowl should be capitalized, super and bowl. Sometimes what you have to do for capitalization, however, is go back and check, not so much for the letters to be capitalized, but to check whether a word is actually written as one word or two. The practice here, also looking at, capitalizing brand names like adjectives. Ford trucks, Ford in this case is what should be capitalized. Trucks is a common noun. The proper noun Ford describes trucks, but there are many different kinds of Ford trucks. If we look at Crest toothpaste, there's actually different kinds of Crest toothpaste as well. So you want to make sure that you watch brand names when they're used as adjectives to describe a common noun. For example, if you look at the idea of Chevy cars or Chevrolet cars, well, the Chevrolet Malibu was the first brand new car I bought for myself. Chevy Malibu, now that becomes a whole proper noun. You could just say a Malibu and still capitalize it by itself. If you have questions on that, you can think of other examples too, like, for example, the Orth kids. We could actually put the first names in there, and that becomes more easily a proper noun. or we refer to something as simply described as the Metcalf cafeteria. Metcalf is capitalized, but the C on cafeteria wouldn't be. Keep thinking of more examples and run those by your teacher too if you're not sure if you're on the right track. Oh yeah, school stuff. Course titles, like the classes you're taking. Those you capitalize. Language Arts 10B. You capitalize that. Mathematics, not so much. Algebra 1, definitely. Honors Biology B, okay. But if we're talking about a class like, say, Social Studies, nope. American History, maybe, if it's American History 1 or 2 or 8A or 9B, definitely. Watch out for things that can be either. For example, English, Spanish, French. Those are already going to be capitalized due to rules we talked about as being actually a proper noun on their own because of languages. That's different. Oh yeah, and names of years, like as in freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Capitalize those own names only when it's used with the proper noun, like the senior prom. So it's an actual, go back to a previous note about seeing particular events. Freshman year isn't necessarily anything you could find. Senior prom, you can find that on a calendar. It's a date, one day out of the year. Freshman year, well, that varies depending on who you're talking to. Here's your practice. Did you study Thanksgiving Day while eating your mini wheats at 6:45 a.m. before heading to science at the high school? I'm sure most of you caught Thanksgiving, but did you know you capitalize Thanksgiving Day? It's actually a phrase for the title of it. Mini wheats. Capitalize the M on mini and the W as well. It's a brand name of an actual cereal. AM, of course, would be capitalized. Science would not be. Well, which science class? And high school, you wouldn't capitalize that because if it was Burnsville Senior High School, then you capitalize those letters. Just high school, you wouldn't because you don't know which high school you're referring to. High school is just a common noun. That wraps up your chapter on capitalization. Even if you're in 9th grade and older, it's good to review these things from time to time, especially looking for the 1 or 2 items out of the whole chapter that maybe you had forgotten or don't remember learning in the first place. Stay with it, work hard, and keep at it. Good hunting.